Hey everybody, this is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Benovich. Time for the vlog for Thursday. This is now September 7th, 2017. This obviously is all about Irma, so let's get right to the latest track. And I'm going to show you first the wide track. Let me start a little bit wider here, and we'll go in closer. But this is the 11 a.m. advisory, just hot off the presses from the National Hurricane Center. Still has the churn somewhere around South Florida, but there is a little shift to the right initially here, and I think that's because the storm is actually trending a little further north, which is going to keep it possibly off the coast of Florida and making a landfall somewhere near the Savannah River. That location hasn't changed much. Down here, it's starting to thin out a little bit. Notice how thin the cone is down there. That's always an indication that there's a little bit more certainty in the track. As the cone widens out, that means there's less certainty or more uncertainty, depending on how you want to word it. So you see up here as it moves into the Carolinas, southern Georgia, South Carolina, and then up into the mountains of North Carolina. Notice the time frame, Tuesday at 8 a.m., Monday at 8 a.m. Probably going to make landfall as a borderline Cat 3, Cat 2, probably around 120-ish, 115, somewhere in there. And it really, that will be dictated about how long it stays over land. Remember, as it comes north, even though it may not go over Florida, the impact of the land will kind of impede some of the moisture flowing into it and kind of knock it down just a hair. And we're also going to see some wind shear increasing from the southwest and the west a little bit, which will help weaken it. And you do notice it's still a dangerous hurricane, but it has lost a little bit of speed overnight, down to 175 miles per hour. And I'll show you why that's happening in a second. Let's go in closer to the Carolinas to give everybody in my area, and really this will include all of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and even Virginia. You can see it skimming the coast. So the southeast coast of Florida really is going to bear the brunt of this because it's going to be too close to call. Now remember, the worst weather is on the right side of the track, so the worst weather is going to be out on this side. But anywhere in here is going to have some pretty nasty winds as it comes up. And storm surge will be a big deal on the South Carolina coast. So if you're told to evacuate, take it very seriously because as the storm is approaching, it's going to have 2 days to build up water that will move into this funneled area of the coast. Remember, storm surge is partly about duration of the wind over the water and also the shape of your coastline. If you live in a particularly storm surge prone area that has bays and inlets that are kind of funnels, which allows water to push in for a couple days, each tide comes up and then it doesn't go down for the low tide, and then the next tide comes up even higher and then it doesn't go down as far. Then the next tide comes up even farther. So it's kind of a vicious cycle as these storms approach from the south. Now let me show you a look at the visible satellite image. I have this looping a couple times here, and you can see it still looks like a very well-defined storm, but there are more clouds in the eye. It's not as crystal clear, which is, you know, if this was any other storm, we'd go, wow, this thing's amazing looking still, and look how strong it is. But it was such a monster 24 hours ago. It does look just a little bit weaker, and a lot of that is because of the mountains of Hispaniola blocking some of the inflow. And you can actually see some breaks in the clouds on the south side. It definitely looks stronger on the north side, which is typical with these systems. Let me show you the infrared, because I think this shows us just a little bit better, and I'm going to stop it here. You can see how the southwest side of the storm is a little bit more ragged. We don't have that white and dark clouds perfectly symmetrical. So there is a little bit of interaction with the land going on here. Not a ton. The problem with a strong hurricane like this, it's just such a strong inner core that you're not going to see much in the way of any weakening as this moves up towards the northwest. Let me show you the steering currents. I've been showing this over the last couple days. They're becoming a little bit more clear. You can see the nice cool front, cold front that came through. I mean, it is beautiful here in the Carolinas, but look at this thing back here and here. There's two short waves that are dropping down into the base of the trough, and that's meteorological, technical talk for basically there being a dip in the jet stream. That is one piece of energy, and then little pieces of energy are dropping down into the trough, which sometimes can make this trough a little bit stronger, but sometimes they get left behind. And in this case, it looks like they're going to get left behind down here, and that's what's going to help pull Irma eventually to the north. We've still got the ridge back here, but we've also got Jose down here, which is riding on the southeast side. And got to keep an eye on Jose long term. It might be meandering out there for a while. Nothing to worry about now, but let's keep an eye on that. But you can kind of see the workings of what's going to happen as these little pieces of energy drop down this trough right here, which you can see. Even though you see the cold front, here's the main trough. This is starting to lift off. These little guys are moving down here, and that's what's going to start influencing what's happening down in the southeast. And just to kind of reiterate, I'm going to look at the European, which has been such an amazing model with this storm. You can see the main trough, which is this big colorful thing here, moving out, but there's those two little pieces you saw on the water vapor loop dropping down in here. And watch how they interact with down here with Irma as it approaches. I'm going to go out 48 hours. This is Friday night, and we'll go into Saturday morning. This is Saturday afternoon, and you see the three pieces of energy in the atmosphere. There's the main trough, short wave there, short wave here, and this is the one that seems to have the biggest influence on Irma, which is down there. Still monster ridge here, so it's starting to break down. And the ridge is still strong, but the Irma's getting to the edge of the ridge, so it's getting around the barrier, and now there's a little avenue for it to come north. Now, I would normally say this thing would go out to sea, or probably turn to the right, but because of this guy back here, it's actually going to pull it back into the coast, and you'll see that happen here as we go into Saturday night and Sunday. Watch it clip southern Florida, southeast Florida. That's why Miami-Dade and that area needs to be very careful and take this storm deadly serious. And then it moves north along the coast, Daytona up to Jacksonville, Savannah, Hilton Head. And the European actually takes it into Georgia, which would be an incredibly rare landfall. That almost never happens. Not saying it won't here, but that's pretty rare. But let's just say it moves just a little bit. That's a big difference between South Carolina and North Carolina there. And you see it gets pulled back this way. Watch on the loop here as it gets pulled back to the west. And you see it moving inland. And so there it is. You see it moving back towards the west. And then it kind of moves up and dissipates. So it's not going to be a slow mover. It's not going to be a super fast mover either. It's just going to move pretty average speed. And then it breaks up and kind of moves on. Here's a look at the forecasted rainfall. People asking a lot about the impacts. You can see the rainfall. And this I'll go out through the middle of next week. We'll go out through basically Thursday morning. Look at the rainfall approaching southeast coast of Florida. Most of the heavy rains offshore, but low country of South Carolina, Midlands, and then up in here into the Carolinas, you're looking at a general 3 to maybe 6 inch rainfall. Not a huge amount of rain. Could cause localized flooding, but this isn't going to be a huge flood threat. This is more of a short term, probably quick flash flood, quick rising waters, and then receding. We're not talking about major river or flooding for days and days and days. Wind speed wise, this is really important because I think this is going to be our main impact in the Carolinas in particular. These are the wind gusts, by the way. These are the highest potential wind gusts, not sustained winds. You see the storm moving over southern Florida. Very strong winds above 100 miles an hour, gust at least, and then moving offshore. But notice the one thing about how the east side is so much, and it's over water too, so this side is so much stronger than this side. That's typically the case, but over open water, the wind can flow much quicker. There's nothing to slow it down like buildings and trees and ground. Moves into Georgia there with 75 to 80 mile an hour winds. And then you see as it moves north, up the Savannah River, essentially, how those strong winds spread into the western Carolinas. And right now you're looking at probably gust to at least 60 in here, maybe a few higher than that, and sustained around 30 to 40. So strong winds blowing in like this all the way up to Greensboro. And again, subtle differences in the track are going to change this, quite a bit. So just think that the wind is going to be our biggest issue. And as we go into Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and then notice how things start to dissipate Tuesday night. Still breezy. And then by Wednesday morning, we're not even talking much about it. Just some breezy conditions in the afternoon, and it moves on. So those are the main concerns I have for the Carolinas. Here's a quick look at the spaghetti plots. And for once, there is a spread, but I'll be honest, this is the most tightly clustered I've seen the 5-day forecast for them, especially down in here, and then even up in here. There's some outliers out here, there's a couple out here, but the majority of these are essentially right where the forecast track is. You can see it making that right turn to the north and then coming into South Carolina and going up towards the northwest. So that's pretty good confidence. Now in the short term, it is interesting to see. Some people have hinted, and I've noticed it this morning, it is moving a little bit further north than you would expect, but that's actually indicated in the models. Notice this little bump up here towards the Turks and Caicos, and then it kind of flattening out. So this little northwest movement is actually being picked up pretty well in the model, so I don't think there's anything more to that. I'll loop this. Actually, let me show you this picture because I think it shows it better. This is the GO16 data, and yeah, you can see that. I mean, it's amazing to look at that right there, how that is just basically spinning towards the north. Let me like this loop a little bit longer because these are 1 minute updates, and sometimes you forget you're looking at a 1 minute update. So there's a look at the eye, and if you look carefully, you can kind of see that it's starting to go off in this general direction. Right in there. So I'm going to zoom in on it for you. So you can see the circulation there pushing off to the north and west. And here comes the Turks and Caicos. This is Dominican Republic coast down there. So you get a really good view of that as the storm moves to the north and west. So that's the latest track. If you want to check it out, go to my Facebook page. I've got the latest track on there. You can see both of them right there on my page. If you want, go up here. One thing I like to do is if you go up here is try to get notifications from the page. If you want to turn notifications on, I think that's always a good idea so that you can get updates from me as they occur. But this is right now the track. I'm going to post some impact updates here in a second, some graphics about rain and wind. All of that will be coming up shortly. And of course, I'll have coverage today on NBC Charlotte, and I'll do another Facebook Live or blog vlog later tonight.